No. There we are. Thank you, Ms. Rhodes. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting of Fernie City Council held at 6:02 p.m. on December 19th, 2023. Kisukukit. We acknowledge that the city of Fernie is located within Kukanamakas, the unceded territory of Yakutat Nucleat. We recognize that we live and work in their vast lands. Akanahunik are from Yakutat Nucleat and are members of the Tanaha-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. I'll call the meeting to order. And our first order of business is presentation of the George S. Magic Spiritus Award, which is presented annually by the city of Fernie in memory of George S. Magic, to a person who, for many years, has demonstrated a dedication to our community, enriching Fernie with their selfless contributions and unwavering support of our town. On behalf of council, I am pleased to present the award to Samantha Sam Sedlowski. And Sam, if you can join me at the podium. And thank you again to Sam and her family for attending. And please, you don't have to stay if you don't want to. You're welcome to leave. Now is probably the right time. Perfect. Thanks, everybody. I'll now ask for a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda and any late items. Moved by Councillor Audia Kelly, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. I'll ask for a mover and seconder for the adoption of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on November 21st, 2023. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any discussion? All in favor? I'll now open the floor to public participation. Invite the public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on items listed on the meeting agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the procedure bylaw to address council, except speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to the Local Government Act, and prior to council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of issuance of the permit, and a speaker may only address council for a maximum of 3 minutes. And looking at our gallery, I suspect nobody, well, we have a delegation, but nobody wants to present otherwise. And anyone online, Ms. Rhodes? No. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 6.1, a presentation by WildSafe BC, Deanna Haycock.
All right, that's for you. So that won't show up on the screen, and you can just press down button.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right, thank you for having me in today. As I was announced to do, my name is Deanna. I'm here representing the WildSafe BC community program. I'm going to be going over a little bit about what that program is for anybody who's not familiar, the kind of work that we do here in the city and in the valley, and talk about some of the things that we were able to accomplish this year. The city of Fernie is one of our funders, included with the others up on the screen. And the community program is designed to be tailored to the communities where we work. So your feedback and participation can help shape the program for next year, and we're always looking for feedback. So without further ado, let's get into it here. All right, keyboard shortcut does not work, so.
Don't worry.
Oh,
There we
wrong.
go.
No, it is in fact me that does not work. Getting all the mistakes out of the way so that the meeting goes smooth from here on out. So the program used to be called Bear Aware. Some of you may be more familiar with that name. The British Columbia Conservation Foundation has been running this program in communities all over BC since the late 90s. Fernie was an early adopter of that program. It's been running here almost as long as the program's been in existence. And we changed the name to Wild Safe BC, which is how it sits currently, to reflect safety, not only with bears, but with other wildlife that we may encounter in BC. Oh, and now it's one too many. Our motto is keeping wildlife wild and communities safe. And our main mandate here in the province is to help reduce conflict between people and animals. So we do a variety of outreach activities in communities where we work around the province to help keep people safe, reduce property damage from negative interactions with wildlife, and of course, keep the animals safe as well so that all of us in BC can continue to enjoy the ecosystem services that they provide. I know that's a little bit small on the screen, but that's a list of the specific types of outreach that we do here in the community. I will go into a number of these in a little bit more detail in the coming slides. But just to give you kind of an idea of the types of outreach that we do door-to-door education where an issue is present that would benefit from direct conversation with somebody who can answer resident questions. We engage with school children of all ages through our Wild Safe Ranger program. We do safety training, presentations for all ages on a variety of wildlife topics, an activity called garbage bin tagging, which I'll kind of define later, and then a number of other initiatives aimed more at businesses and campsites where appropriate. So to get started here, the Wild Safe Ranger program, this year, I was able to visit around 400 students here in Fernie between the ages like for preschool all the way up to grade 9. I also did a presentation with some grade 10 students, exchange students from Germany with Fernie Academy. So we do cover up to grade 12 with those programs as required. We also started a new thing this year with Officer Leach, where during the presentations, she would accompany me and we would deliver kind of joint information, more of the safety stuff on my end, and then from the bylaw team, talking to the kids about the recent changes to the solid waste bylaw to kind of cement the consequences of not acting in a wild, safe way. And hopefully they can bring that message home to their families. And we've learned that kids are really great about reminding their parents if they learn about something that is good for the community and that they should be doing. There's an example on the screen there of some of our outreach materials. So we have like a variety of activities, coloring sheets, and then fun things for the kids. And it is all tailored for the age group that we are teaching to. So we can cover a variety of students through that program. I also was present at a number of display booths here in and around the city. We got about 900 people from Fernie specifically that way. I'm also the coordinator for the larger Elk Valley South Country program that covers all of the RDEK areas A and B. So I did get a number of people from outside Fernie as well, but that's a more concentrated figure if we're talking just about the city. So people can come up to me and ask questions. I can provide community-specific information about programs in the area, bylaw information if people want to know what the consequences are for putting their garbage bin out early, for example, and other questions like that. So it is an opportunity to get that messaging out there to a variety of people, including tourists. We also run the training and presentation workshops. I worked with a number of groups throughout the city, including at the ski hill, and also with the city. I did a training session with some city employees. That was really awesome. We teach bear spray education because it's the best way to protect oneself. And on a variety of other topics, I was able to reach about 200 people specifically for training on that this year. Door-to-door outreach I mentioned a little bit earlier, and garbage bin tagging is another one of our successful programs. That refers to sending out a wild safe employee the day before garbage collection in an area. And then anybody who has their bin out too early, like the night before, they get a removable warning sticker placed on their bin. And we also record that information for statistics and kind of monitoring purposes to see where those bylaw infractions are happening. Since I'm not like an officer, doesn't come with a fine or anything. So it's a very soft approach to be able to communicate bylaw messaging. We work very closely with the bylaw team to be able to do that. And we have seen that in areas where we repeatedly do these surveys, that it does improve compliance with the bylaw. Most people are pretty happy to see crackdown because garbage is the #1 bear attractant in Fernie, and it is something that we get a lot of citizen feedback about. They are very concerned about having the animals in the neighborhood.
2 minutes, Deanna.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. This is the second last slide, so I'm right on track. This is just an example of some of the ways that we can grow the program next year. As I said before, it's flexible. So if some of these programs are more desirable or less desirable, I can kind of tailor the programming to fit that. We have the campsite program. I don't think there's any in the city maybe that would work with that, but certainly the business pledge, if that's something that the community wants to embrace, reaching out to the business community a little bit more, dealing with the commercial bins here in Fernie, making additional connections with the Ktunaxa Nation, and continuing to work on fruit tree management in the city. That's another big wildlife attractant, is unmanaged fruit trees. Those are some areas where we may be able to expand or continue into the future. So that's kind of a quick and dirty overview of what the program was like this year. It typically runs from April to November, so we are technically in hibernation right now, but if you have any ideas or feedback or suggestions for next year, you're welcome to leave that in an email at the Fernie@WildSafeBC inbox, and that will be available to the coordinator for next year to start implementing those changes. And any immediate comments or questions that you may have, you can direct to my boss at bc@wildsafebc.com. So thank you again. I know that was kind of a lot all right away, but if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them here. And thank you again for having me in today.
Thank you, Deanna. That was excellent, and your timing is perfect. I'll hand it over to council. Any questions? Councillor Shoesmith.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. In your tracking of the waste infractions, is it like, are there any patterns you're picking up on? Like, is it one guy with 5,000 waste bins? Or...
Yeah, so in the tracking, we do take down the address and we flag like repeat offenders, whether that's repeat from year to year or repeat within the same season. Because typically I go out twice in a given neighborhood, once where everybody has warning that I'm coming, and then once on a surprise day to try and see if the education that I did between the 2 weeks has an effect on the infraction rate. So typically this year it was pretty good. I didn't have any repeats this year. But if we do notice a pattern where there is like a repeat infraction, then we would be able to pass that information on to the bylaw officers and decide if there's additional steps that need to be taken to deal with like those problem properties with repeat infractions.
Thanks. And I might have missed it. How long has this been running for?
I don't have the exact date. My colleague Kathy Murray would know better. She has been working in this position for years and years, and I just took it on from her this year. I know the garbage bin tagging, I have data going back to 2020 at least. But the garbage bin tagging is a little bit newer. So I think maybe up to 2018, don't quote me on that. All of our previous community reports are available on the WildSafe BC website. So if you're interested in previous figures, that information is available to peruse through if you're interested.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship. So do you know how many bears were euthanized last year in Fernie? Do you have that number, or is that more a CO question?
Yeah, I don't have that number. Under other circumstances, I might. But we had a little bit of a communication breakdown because of our online tool, WARP, the wildlife reporting software. We were having IT issues, and that hasn't been resolved. So I wasn't able to communicate as directly with the COs. My understanding is that it was actually a fairly good year for bears, which is interesting because it's an El Nino year and we were expecting to see a little bit more conflict with the fires and the other disruptions from climatic effects. But I don't want to speak out of turn and have a bad number for you. So that's the best I can give at the moment.
Any other questions? Councillor Artie Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. Not much of, not really a question, but we did have a letter from Steve Kite and Randall McNair, and they want to work on, basically community safeness and keeping the bears alive. So I'm wondering if there's a possibility for a collab with you folks, like a consultation. And also we are going to be composting soon. So I might you might be busier again.
Yes, I was aware. We've been made aware of the upcoming composting initiatives for the city. And we've already started working with the bylaw team about what that might look like, pulling on our research on the smoothest way to roll that out in a community where you do have, large predators quite close in town. And as for collaborations, we do try to work with community groups and other organizations where possible. So if you're interested in setting up a collaboration, please feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to get that started.
Yeah, thank you for that, Deanna, because reflecting on Councillor Artie Kelly's question, we are supportive of that committee. And yeah, it's something to keep in mind in terms of your capacity and whether you can participate in that. I think you'd bring a really important perspective. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. In discussions about the composting and bins and so on, I've been trying to get a handle on sort of the scale of non-compliance versus compliance in the community with regard to good management of garbage and so on. Mm-hmm. So just looking at the stats that included in your presentation about door-to-door outreach to about 150 households this season. And you gave us a comparison of tagging in 2023 versus 2020, 5 versus 41. I'm curious about two things. One, is door-to-door outreach driven specifically by non-compliance, meaning you go knock on the door because there is an issue? And then two, has there been a trend over the last little while as to whether or not is 150 a higher number than normal or lower, or has it been flat? I'm just curious about what that trend has looked like.
Yeah, for sure. So going door to door is just a tool available to us. As a new coordinator this year, I shied away from door to door a little bit just because it's a little bit more in something that you have to be experienced in order to put a good face forward for the organization and have your information all straight. But in the future, I can basically do door-to-door education as much or as little as the community needs. I did it to accompany the bin tagging because bylaw put in a request for some areas where they'd had a higher number of calls to that area for various infractions. So I focused my energy on those areas at this season. But I can go door to door to talk about composting, or if there's a dangerous animal in the area, like right that day, to kind of warn people. Anything that the city wants. If you feel that that's an effective communication, we can scale that as required to reach people that way.
Other questions? Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship. You know, I appreciate that you're a new coordinator. And I like the soft approach that you have with the younger kids, but I think that we need a harder approach with our bigger kids that we have in our community, like our adults, because it doesn't seem like we don't have a bear problem. We have a human problem, and they just keep on leaving the garbage out, right? And then it attracts the bears. And if we need to, maybe this is more of a comment, if we need to increase service levels and increase our bylaw, then maybe that's what we need to do. But it just seems like I haven't lived here all my life, but it's just like it's the amount of problems that we've had with bears in the last 10 years just seems like it's escalating. So, you know, a harder approach with the big kids, please. That's my feedback.
Valuable feedback for next year. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation, Deanna. It was very informative, and thank you for working so closely with our bylaw team. And we look forward to working with you again in the future.
Wonderful. They've been fantastic to work with. Everyone in the city has been very kind. So it's been a pleasure, truly. I will leave you to the rest of the meeting then. Thank you again for having me in.
Not at all. Takes us to item 7.1, a fleet replacement plan report from the Manager of Public Works.
Can everyone see that?
Not on our screens, no.
Amazing. I just press that your way. And then you just do exactly what you did before. Hello, good evening. So I'm here to present the long-awaited fleet replacement plan. And what I want to remind council of is this is more of a discussion piece to talk about your principles and what you want to see going forward. So beginning of January, we sat down as a group and talked about what is the goal for this project. And we came up with, first of all, we wanted a project that had no consultant fees. We wanted to work with the metrics that we had within the city and the very qualified professionals we have as well. We wanted a replacement timeline based on research that other municipalities have done. And then a comparable replacement cost from regular gas vehicles or diesel vehicles to electric vehicles, and an economic analysis as well. Then we added operational strategies just because it kind of made sense to have it all within one plan. It is an operational plan, so that's what you can expect to see tonight. So why are fleet replacement principles important? First of all, council, you've just released your strategic plan for your tenure, and climate action was in there. Capital planning, of course, we want to make sure that we have the funds to replace our fleet, to continue to ensure quality service to our residents here. And then there are also provincial and federal initiatives and targets. BC put forward an initiative to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and carbon emissions by 27 to 32% below 2007 measures. So, and they want to do that by 2030. So that is also kind of a catalyst for this project. This is just a reminder of the council's strategic plan. So first was, what is our replacement timeline? We looked at a bunch of different municipalities, and this is very challenging because a lot of municipalities haven't really got into depth with their policies on what the timelines should be or what the timelines are. But with pulling from similar size communities, this is what we came up with. So light duty, what we've been doing, what Fernie has been doing is replacing kind of end of life. And what we're proposing is to replace light duty vehicles at 8 years and replace them with zero emission vehicles after 2024. Medium duty, it's 12 years. And this is kind of the discussion piece of what is the percentage above baseline that we want to see budgeted for. Same with heavy duty. And then I'll just highlight that light duty electric vehicles, we don't know the expected useful life yet. Most light duty electric vehicles haven't been on the market for more than, I don't know, not 15 years though. So that's something that we'll continue to monitor. That's a number that I'd like to get more information on as the years goes on and update this plan. And then the task specific vehicles and all terrain vehicles, it's kind of the same thing. We have to go with that specific case and kind of engage council what the percentage above baseline is that we want to budget for the future. Next, we had to try to compare metrics of what we did have between our internal combustion engine vehicles versus our electric vehicles. So what we did was we took the price of fuel on 4 different vehicles from 2021 and 2022. We averaged that out to, and we made an assumption that a truck was 100 liters per tank and an SUV was about 70 liters per tank. So then we calculated the cost, what that would cost in fuel for 7 years. Then we did the same thing with electric vehicles. So we made the assumption an SUV is about 70 kilowatt hours for one charge, and a truck is about 180 kilowatt hours per charge. Using the BC Hydro rates, we came up with one tank equivalent would be $10 per charge, and a truck tank equivalent would be $25 per charge. So with those assumptions, I also wanted to explain some considerations. So when we're purchasing capital, there are tons of rebates right now on electric vehicles. So the pricing that you'll see in the next slide include those rebates. They're 2023 costs. That's our baseline. Maintenance costs, we do track our maintenance costs, but it's pretty much impossible to pull it out per unit. So that's not considered in the maintenance on our light trucks and SUVs. Yeah.
Sorry, Stashin, but that information would be available typically, but from people like the folks who are in the room here, the Community Energy Association, who would they have those metrics available?
The maintenance costs would be specific to each vehicle. And that's something we track in our VADM system, but it's hard to use those metrics because we have very different uses of our vehicles, and we also have different lifespans of those vehicles. It's a lot of data. I'm sure with some work, it could happen with our team or a external consultant, but for us to pull that out and to make it presentable to you was pretty much impossible. So, did I answer your question? Okay. We also didn't consider trade-in values because, well, there's a couple reasons. So like I said earlier, we've been trading in or replacing vehicles at end of life. And what I'm proposing in this plan is that we replace them when they're still useful. So often I've seen us getting maybe $500 or $2,000 back for a truck that we've spent, $65,000 on. So with this 8-year replacement plan on the light vehicles anyway, we're hoping to recoup some of that cost, and that's not reflected in this plan. And then with electric vehicles, what we've noticed is they take more charges in the winter. So it's pretty hard to equate how much that's going to cost because we just got our first electric vehicles this year. So we just tried to compare apples to apples as best we could, negating the increase in winter charges. And then charging infrastructure is another thing that going forward with this plan, if council has appetite to continue to replace light vehicles with electric, we will need to invest in capital infrastructure for charging. So with all that work, this is kind of what we've come up with with the metrics that we had for something to show you what we can see right now. So our F-150, we compared just a basic model. The 2023 unit price is $65,000, and a Lightning Pro, which is an electric half-ton truck, and that's also base model, $63,000. So after getting those base units, we added the average cost of fuel or charging over 7 years. And I have two lines there. So one is moderate use. If I go back here, we have a moderate use truck and a high use truck. So these are the numbers we used, the 32,000 and the 19,000 here. And you can see the moderate use truck with the capital price plus the 7-year fueling for an EV would be around 65,000, and a high use would be around 67. So compared to 90,000 if you're using a gas truck. So that's a 30% savings, which is great because most of our light vehicles are trucks. We have 27 light duty vehicles, we have 11 medium duty vehicles, and we have 14 heavy duty vehicles. So we're really looking at the light duty right now because the market has availability. We also looked at different SUVs, and you can see there are, just with these metrics, there are 25 to 30% losses. However, we have been replacing trucks with SUVs as well. As part of the plan was to analyze the use of these vehicles, and these are more to move people from place to place, to take people to conferences and that kind of thing. So we haven't really replaced SUVs with SUVs other than the Escape that's at City Hall. And then we get into higher consumption vehicles. So this is an emerging market. There are loaders and mini excavators on the market right now, but it's very new. In May this year, the province of BC came out with a consultation paper. It's a very interesting read, but it was more so to gauge interest and questions from municipalities and other interested parties. But in that paper, they stated, like, there is an initiative. We have in the province of BC, 50%, I think it said 50% of the emissions are from heavy duty vehicles. So thinking back to those targets, This is the province's initiative to reduce those, and I'm just looking at my notes. So they outlined a roadmap for zero emission, medium and heavy duty vehicles, like sort of mirroring California's initiatives, but it is in line with the reduction by 2030. And we can anticipate seeing more of these on the market. Yeah, it says that there. So going forward, medium and heavy duty equipment will undergo individual evaluation. It's pretty hard to compare a loader to backhoe to, a gravel truck. So we plan on collecting that information and collecting what the market has, but not necessarily planning to purchase any electric heavy or medium duty equipment. Some operational strategies, which you would have seen in the policy, light duty vehicles will be replaced with EVs after 2024. And that's based on the metrics that I showed you. We'll continue to collect zero emission vehicle pricing to compare to baseline on all fleet procurement. So we've added a line in our procurement documents that state we will consider EV, just so we can continue to collect pricing and see what the market has. And then budget a % above baseline. So baseline is the internal combustion engine unit prices for 2023. We'll keep an eye on the zero emission vehicle, medium and heavy duty industry and the provincial targets. We are anticipating seeing a policy from the province hopefully next year. They didn't have a timeline on the consultation paper. And then we'll evaluate fleet and vehicle size to fit our needs. So like I said earlier, we've replaced a couple of our light duty trucks with SUVs because we realize these are more people movers than, equipment movers. So, and then we also added to our skill set. We've got our heavy duty mechanic in a certified electric vehicle technician program, and he's already started that. So we're well on our way to being able to maintain these vehicles. So what's next? Discounted cash flow analysis, which has been preliminarily prepared by Bryn. That will be coming in, the next year. We also plan to investigate financial impact on budgeting a percentage above baseline. And that's kind of what I'm here to solicit from you, is conversation around what that % might be or what council would feel comfortable with. We will prepare a project scope and a capital for a capital plan for charging infrastructure. And then, like I said, continue to collect market pricing on EV options for light, medium, and heavy duty. And then also evaluate the expected useful life of light duty EVs. So this is kind of where I open it up for questions or dialogue. The replacement timelines, like I said, that was researched from different communities, and there's not a lot of information out there on what replacement timelines should be for EVs. I'd like to hear some comfort levels or maybe discussion around the percentage above baseline that we can prepare for you in the next year. And then gauge appetite for a more detailed analysis into the economic and financial implications. That would be more of another scope of a project, and that would be something that we would, if there's an appetite for, we could engage in a consultant with. But if there's any other questions, we were anticipating what you might want to talk about. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you to the team that worked on this. I'm excited and lucky that I got to present this today, but I got support from finance and asset management, and especially my director here. I was excited about this project at the beginning of the year, and then frustrated and there were some tears, but I'm very happy to be here. So, but that behind me is a whole team of experts and corporate admin. Thank you for getting me to this podium. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Stasha. And I'm very sorry there was tears for Dustin.
Well, they were my
Must
tears.
have been very hard on him. Thank you for that, Council. Could you actually, sorry, Stasha, could I actually put that slide
Sure.
back up with your
Yep.
questions, please, if you don't mind? Councilor Audie Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship.
Wait.
It's a little hard to have a comfort level without knowing financial metrics and budget implications. It's kind of hard to determine what a comfort level would be.
Yeah, I struggle with that a little bit myself in terms of that's why, sorry, I asked for this slide to be back up, because I think there is, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, an appetite for more detailed analysis into the economics and financial implications, because there's a number of factors that you've already touched on. So if for example, the life cycle of a light duty vehicle is 8 years, there is a price differential at the outset. There is a cost saving in operating, and I do appreciate you said the vehicles will have different uses and different intensity of use. But there's a cost saving on maintenance, particularly on an EV and fuel. But what is the time period whereby we've bridged that gap and now we're ahead of the game? Like, that's one question that immediately comes to mind. Because there's no fluids, there's no transmission, there's a whole bunch of components that are not subject to wear and tear. The regenerative braking, of course, saves the brakes for, I think Councilor Audie Kelly has sort of put her finger on it, a deeper financial analysis of what is the payback period for that initial capital difference, for example. Councilor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Yeah, just full disclosure, I drive an EV. And
I laughed. I apologize. I laughed because we had that comment about how long will it take him to work it into the conversation.
Well, it's full disclosure. I'm just telling everybody yeah, doesn't matter what kind it is. It's just, I know that, does it matter?
Anyways, go ahead, Councilor Nixon.
And you, Mayor Milligan, touched on this before, but we do have consultants that are available to the city at all times, the Community Energy Association. And I'm not sure if you consulted with them, but they are a wealth of knowledge. I just in talking with Megan Lohman just for 2 minutes and talking about this and she said the plug-in hybrid vehicle that Kimberly bought a bunch of years ago cost them $25 in gas for 6 months. So there is that information out there as well. And I'm not sure if you, and pardon me if you have consulted with them, but I'm not sure if you have. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to Councilor Nixon's point, we are members of the Community Energy Association, so there will be some consulting services we can take advantage of that will cost us nothing. And there are probably some blanket financials that we can apply to a great number of our fleet that are used largely around town, for example. So it would be important to take advantage of that. Councillor Shoesmith.
I just wanted to chime in with how awesome Troy's EV is. But on a serious note, there are a couple things I would weigh in on this with. First off, it's a pretty good presentation. Thank you. I feel that given that this is unknown territory, usually we don't jump into things we haven't been through before and find out that there's massive free bags of money. We usually find out that there's stumbling blocks and issues. So because of that, I'm leery of us diving both feet into something that we haven't seen the full life cycle on yet. I think this is one of those cases where it might pay to watch the earliest adopters and perhaps dabble, but I wouldn't really support jumping in whole hog. Yeah. Oh, I would also say that in the cases where it is apparently cheaper to operate, yeah, I'm great with that. But if we're gonna budget extra for this, I think that City of Fernie is not gonna do much to save the world, but I think City of Fernie should focus on trying to save the taxpayers, which is something we can actually reach out. That's attainable. That's within our reach. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective, and not least of all because it was a question asked of us at the town hall, and we didn't have a ready answer in terms of what the long-term potential cost saving would be of running an EV in that application versus an internal combustion engine. So to have those metrics at our fingertips would be very, very useful. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Yeah, I too support diving into what the economic payback is. However, I don't know how many people have been paying attention to the federal government in the last 48 hours. That we are going to have one replacement cycle before this is forced upon us, with the federal government announcing the phase out of the sale of internal combustion engines. So we can sit around and wait and see what it might look like. But we're literally, if we're talking an 8-year replacement cycle, 2035 is the date. That's 12 years from now. So we're gonna have to start replacing this within the next cycle. So I think we should all be very mindful of that as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but as we've seen with the movement of higher levels of government on various initiatives, I'm not sure that should necessarily guide our hand here. I think it's understanding our own financial implications, as Councillor Shoesmith has indicated, before we jump into this wholeheartedly, because there are implications, as been indicated, for the taxpayer, but also, do we fully understand the value drivers of switching our entire fleet? And I was curious, sorry, Councillor McCausey, just a moment. I was curious, there's 15, I think is it said in your report, that are now at end of life, is that right? That we're looking
Past
to
end of life.
past end of life?
Yeah.
And is that sort of the start of a pig in the python? Like, are we going to see a rush over the next 5 years of 30 that then have to be replaced?
I don't know what replacement is going to look like.
Okay.
But we'd like to get to, a baseline where we have replaced everything that is past end of life, and then start with this replacement plan. I just want to remind council that what's next, like the slide up here, we do plan to do a discounted cash flow analysis. That's what you'll see next out of this, and investigate the financial impacts on budgeting a % above baseline. So it's great dialogue. This is exactly what I wanted out of this meeting. But I just wanted to point out, like, we do have the plan to do that. That's the next step of this project internally. But if council would like to put further this project and hire a consultant to do further analysis, that might be something you want to consider for next year or the year after or whenever.
Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Worship. While I'm not prepared to jump in whole hog either, I would point out that while we don't have specific long-term analysis for the difference in fuel costs and maintenance costs and so on, primarily because we haven't had a long-term EV fleet. And if we keep waiting until we have comparative analysis, we never will do that. It's a catch-22 situation. You can't have comparison analysis if you don't actually have anything to compare it to. Fortunately, a lot of other groups all over the world, and including in Canada and the United States, have done a wide array of comparisons between EV fleets versus internal combustion engines fleets, and across the board, EV wins, period. And the margin gets wider every day. EV vehicle prices are falling, and the cost of running a gas-powered or diesel-powered vehicle continues to go up and up. It is not going to get better, it is going to get worse. So I wholeheartedly support more analysis on this, but I think especially in the areas of light vehicles where it's already demonstrable that there is a financial benefit right up front, we should be moving there immediately. With focus on medium and heavy duty vehicles to see, because those are also a much more significant investment up front with potentially higher maintenance costs and so on down the road. I would reflect a more cautious attitude in moving to those areas. But the light fleet seems it's a no-brainer. We're already there. Having said that, let's not stop measuring it.
No, exactly
So,
right.
Thank you.
Councillor Adia Kelly and Councillor
Thanks.
Shoesmith.
Thanks, Your Worship. I would like to see more metrics for my comfort level and for that of the taxpayers. We have to be cognizant of that. Also, though, and Councillor Nixon's mention of community energy, I think it would be really nice to know about the carbon tax burden reduction that we might also see in along with the financial side of it. I would like to see that as well, if that's possible.
Councillor Shoesmith.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. If indeed the costs are falling, and they are for the moment for sure, the incentive there is to not front load things, but to dabble and compare and learn. In addition to that, there are a lot of larger organizations that run an awful lot of heavy equipment. And these guys are hard-nosed by the numbers. It's probably not a good idea to switch our heavier pieces over to electric until we start seeing those guys do it. They've done the math. They've got that experience. There's, to date, I mean, that's the industry I'm in. To date, there's very few electric heavy vehicles outside of niche environments such as mines where the emissions are, well, lethal. But I would be leery of making our heavier iron go that way unless there was already that industrial base in place to support that, of the maintenance people, all these things, because these are the vehicles that keep our water flowing. And I don't like taking risks in that arena at all. Thank you.
Councillor Nixon and then Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we had two EVs since July. Do we have any metrics from those, or is it, we had the two Solteras. Was there any data from those two vehicles that we can see? And did we get any rebates for those as well? Because that was on your slides as well.
We did get rebates on them, and I don't have metrics for 2023. However, those were both of those EVs replaced light duty trucks. So can anticipate the fuel cost is much less and the capital cost was much less. The trucks that we replaced this year were around 85, and the EV SUVs were around 60, 62. So it's not really comparing the same type of vehicle because we downsized the trucks that we had.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. In your presentation, you're asking for like what our comfort level was for a percent differential. How difficult is it to create a variety of scenarios for us so that we can see the impact of, if we're looking at a 30% cost differential, 20 or 10 as you presented? Is that an onerous amount of work, or is that just simply changing a couple numbers in a spreadsheet?
That's part of the next step of this project, is to prepare that for council. So in the presentation, we had 10, 20, 30. We can do that. It's just going to take some time. So we do plan to present that to council, as well as the discounted cash flow analysis. So there is a lot more work that needs to happen that we plan on doing. However, it's going to take, finance a lot of time. So if we have an idea of what you want to look at, like 10, 20, 30, if that sounds good, or we can look at 2, 3, 4, we can kind of calculate it out. I don't know how much work that is, but
Director Birdie.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Ms. Sellinger's mentioned this discounted cash flow analysis a few times, and it's just a tool that council will see as part of our capital presentations this upcoming budget cycle. And it's essentially just calculating the metrics that you already touched on, like payback period and whether or not something is net present value positive or negative. And I mean, to be fair, we don't buy equipment to earn extra revenue very often, but this model, which I do have in draft Excel form here, but it lays out initial capital costs and then our cost savings per year, and then picks a discount rate to measure what we could otherwise do with that money, and then inflation, and then it'll kick back a number for payback period and NPV. So you can expect to see those, especially for our larger projects that do generate obvious savings to help with your decision making as part of the budget presentations this year. And maybe that's a good start for the vehicles that we do and try to purchase this year, is just to view those one by one and see what the difference is between electric and internal combustion.
Thank you, Councillor Schussman.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Just a quick compliment on those existing vehicles. I hadn't realized that they were that much cheaper than what they were replacing. So kudos for sort of lean mindset. And as long as the maintenance and stuff works out, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton, did you have a follow-up?
I did have a follow-up, but I think Mr. Burdett essentially answered it. It was less a question and more a sentiment or a statement of, I don't feel at this time like I have the information to give you any guidance of 2, 3, 4 or 10, 20, 30. And so I think once we are able to see kind of what the NPV assessments are and see a little bit more of the metrics into those payback periods and maintenance costs over the life cycle costs, that sort of thing, then I feel I'll be in a better position to give more guidance.
Yeah, I think this is such new technology. We probably don't even have a handle on end of life return, right? Like what at 8 years, what would you get for a Subaru EV? We'd have no idea. Yeah, so there's a lot more detail I think that we need. Councillor Audie Kelly.
Could we get a copy of your slides, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton.
I can answer your question based on current market rates online, and that's about 60% after 8 years.
After 8 years. Yeah, interesting, right? But yeah, that would have to make up a small part of a large analysis, I think. And to your point, Mr. Burdett, there's different uses. There's and Ms. Sellinger, you said the same thing. It's hard to make a determination now when there's so much sensitivity in the analysis required for each vehicle, each use, the life cycle costs. Life cycle costs of a current vehicle I think is a lot more work we would need to feel comfortable. And I would encourage us to reach out to the Community Energy Association, and to Councillor McIsaac's point, let's not reinvent the wheel. Somebody else has done this on a whole fleet, even more varied than ours, I'm sure, that we could lay our hands on somewhere. Councillor Hamilton.
And as an addition to that, can we look at other nations and like other jurisdictions? Because I know in the community, a lot of the comments that I hear are around, well, our climate, our winters, the weather that we have in Canada is totally different than southern US. So batteries don't work in the cold, but I know, having spent a lot of time in Northern Europe, they've got a lot of EVs there and they don't seem to have problems. And they drive similar distances in a lot of instances.
For sure. Councillor Nixon.
Okay, I'm going to get personal here.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah, well, it's just like I've driven almost 40,000 kilometers in my vehicle. I just drove from Penticton to Kelowna to home in basically 8 hours. I've used about 5 jugs of windshield washer fluid since I bought the vehicle last February. 9,000 kilowatt hours, the cost of $2,000. So, I mean, equate that to my gas vehicle and it would just be ridiculous. One of the things that I really want to see as well with these vehicles that we're bringing in, because we're dealing with climate change here, and I'd like to see them wrapped. I'd like to see them not with a white magnet sitting on the side of the vehicle. I'd like to see them with 100% clean, zero emission vehicle. Like, I mean, this is what we need to do. We need to be leaders in this community, right? So I'm not wrapping my vehicle.
That's a fair comment, though, yeah, to show leadership. Well, if this is the route we're going to take, let's be proud to take it. And it's consistent with our, as you've pointed out, with our strategic plan. So I think there is an appetite with council to get more information and to continue this analysis. So I appreciate the report, Ms. Selinger. It was very informative.
Thanks.
Any other questions before? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8.1 or 8 correspondence. Any comments on the correspondence? Councillor Nixon.
Thank you again. I know that we don't have planning here, but I'm just wondering if they've had a chance to review that new provincial legislation, the 3 to 4 housing units, depending on the lot size, will definitely change part of our community. Going through this document and then finding it online. So I'll probably have to, wait till we have planners in the room as well.
Yeah, I think so. I know they've received, amongst other things, that the handbook, the province has provided, but I don't know that they've had the time to do that level of analysis with it, because it does change the equation in a number of neighborhoods for sure. Yeah. Thank you. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn committee of the whole, and we will roll right into a special meeting of council held at 7:04 on December 19th, 2023. And I will once again acknowledge that the city of Fernie is located within Kukinamakis, the unceded territory of Yakutat and Nucleat. We recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. Pardon me, losing my voice. The Kanahunik are from Yakutat and Nucleat and are members of the Tanaha-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. I'll call the meeting to order. I'll ask for approval of the agenda with a late item to be added as item 6.1, request for letter of support from Kaken Lands and Resources Development Corporation be added to the agenda, and that the agenda be adopted as amended. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And I'll turn to you, Mr. McConnell, if you don't mind going through the next few.
I was going to ask if you wanted me to read these. Item 4.1, the next 3 items are all just bylaws for adoption. So if you wish, I can just read them, each recommendation as we go through.
Please.
So 4.1 is the Municipal Parks, Facilities and Parks User Regulation bylaw. It's the recommendation is that council adopt Municipal Facilities and Parks User Regulation and Fees bylaw number 2484, 2023.
Can I ask for a mover? Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
The next one, Your Worship, is that council adopt zoning bylaw number 1750, amendment bylaw number 2499, 2023.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Adia Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. And before you read the next one, Mr. McConnell, if you don't mind, I think Director Burdett has some comments in relation to this item.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. I have a few slides for those of us that are a little better learning visually. But this is in response to Councillor Adia Kelly's question last week about borrowing money and exactly how that works and what the impact on our taxpayer would be like. And I also apologize, I completely failed to get this on that computer, so I'm just going to sit here and present these.
Okay.
So the formula that kind of dictates what our capacity for borrowing is prescribed by the provincial government. And it's there on your screen. It's 25% of municipal revenues minus our current annual debt and interest payments. And that equals what our available capacity is. So based on our 2022 financial statements, our capacity is for annual debt payments of 3.8 million. And I just want to clarify that those would be annual payments and not the total amount of debt that we could take on. And our current annual debt payments are about 838,000, noting that 600,000 of those is our short-term loan, which we have two more years left on starting next year in 2024. So there's room there. We have the capacity to borrow should that be what we decide to do. Councillor Hamilton.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you. So just to clarify on that last slide, 3.835991 is our total debt servicing costs that we're allowed.
Yep.
And 838 is what our currently payments, but after 2025, that would drop down to 238.
Yep. Well,
with no additional borrowing.
Correct.
Give or take.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. Purely curiosity.
Hmm.
I'm just curious, what level of debt would we have to take on in order to have to spend $3.8 million in debt servicing every year?
Thank you. It depends on interest rates and length of term, obviously. And I have some example loan lengths and interest rates later. But I think my highest payment that I'm going to show you is 1.4, and that was for a $10 million loan for 10 years. So you could do $20 million for 10 years and not hit the capacity, I guess. Yeah. With current interest rates.
Sorry, current interest rates at 1.4. Apologies, Your Worship.
No, no,
okay.
please.
$10 million at 10 years would require $3.8 million in debt servicing?
No, if we were to borrow $10 million for 10 years at current interest rates, which are just under 5, that would result in annual payments of 1.4 million.
Okay.
So, double that, and there's 2.8 million essentially,
Right, okay.
Which almost gets us there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That
So,
gives me an idea. Appreciate it.
So then interest, so MFA is the Municipal Finance Authority, and that's a tool available to local governments. They're out of Vancouver, and they offer pretty decent interest rates compared to the market. That's a advantage that municipalities have to be able to use them. And they offer long-term borrowing twice a year, one in the spring, one in the fall. The most recent fall issuance, their interest rate was 4.97%. Their current guidance is at about 4.2%, which is not to be quoted. They stipulate that it's for analytical purposes only. And then loans are typically issued for 10 years, and then it's refinanced if you want to go longer than that 10-year period. So you can borrow up to 25 years, I saw online. And just for reference, for next year, approximately, 1% of our taxation revenue is equal to approximately $87,000, which equates to about $26.77 for the average single-family house in Fernie. And then lastly, this slide is a few different loans. So the first column is the interest rate. 4.97 is the most recent issue. The 4.2 is the future guidance. And then I've got term length of 25, 15, and 10 years there. This is all assuming borrowing $10 million. And you can see the annual payments in the third column. The highest of which being the 4.97% for 10 years at 1.3 million. I said 1.4 earlier, but 1.3. And then the cost of borrowing is the next column, which is adding up all the interest payments over the loan term. And And then if we were to solely fund that loan payment by taxation, that would be the fifth column there would be the needed tax increase in order to fund those amounts. So that's just taking the third column divided by the 87,300. And the last column there would be the effect of that much tax increase on the average single family home. And I will send these slides to council to have, and I've got a little spreadsheet prepared too. You can type in whatever loan amount and length that you want. And
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Burdett? Councilor Nadia Kelly.
Just to thank you very much, Director Burdett. Really appreciate that.
And I look forward to the spreadsheet as well. I find that very useful to play with the numbers a little bit.
Thank you. It's really
Particularly
great.
on a spreadsheet I didn't have to build. With that, I'll ask Mr. McConnell to read the recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. The staff recommendation is with respect to the 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw. It's that council adopt the 2023 to 2027 5-year financial plan bylaw number 2487, 2023, amendment bylaw number 2506, 2023.
Moved by Councilor McIsaac, seconded by Councilor Hamilton. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. This moves us on to item 5.1, 2024 discretionary grant recommendation, a report from their Deputy Director of Finance, Ms. Cook.
Good evening, Your Worship and council members. This is a request for decision on the 2024 discretionary grant after the meeting of the grant committee on November 28th. I will briefly go over the grant objectives. So the program is designed to contribute to a sense of community identity, individual and community growth and development, opportunities allowing families to participate as a unit, encouragement of diversity and uniqueness with respect to diverse cultural traditions, terrible writing, excuse me, to diverse cultural traditions, and removing barriers to access to leisure activities to identifiable disadvantaged groups. Some of our guidelines, just for not funding, we don't want to be funding research, transportation, provision of services that are legislative mandates within other orders of government, payment of city property taxes, operating or capital deficits, construction and repair costs, academic or certain technical training, and agencies that are primarily funding bodies to other organizations and funding to individuals. So in summary, last year we had total applications for $72,300. We awarded $2,200 to the Elk River Alliance, $5,000 to Fernie Citizen Housing Society, $2,200 to Fernie Freestyle Snow Club, and $5,000 to the Fernie Heritage Trust Society. This year, our applications totaled $39,485.32. We elected to, or we discussed awarding $1,486.32 to the Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy to fund their Living Through Grief, Suicide, and Caregiving mental health program. $1,500 to the Elk Valley Hospice for their bereavement companion training course. $2,000 to Fernie Fire Adaptive Snow Sports for volunteer training to become certified with CADS. $2,000 to the Real Canadian Film Society for their annual film festival. Recommendation for council today is that we award this total of $6,986.52, which leaves a remainder of $7,413.48. It's also being recommended that we add a second intake period for the discretionary grant in such situations where there is sufficient funding for a second intake period.
Thank you, Ms. Cook.
Mhm.
I'd look to the actually discretionary grant committee if they had any comments on this specifically. Councilor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. The discretionary grant committee has went through all the applications. Of course, some of the applicants were eliminated for a variety of reasons that didn't meet with our particular goals and objectives or whatever. But I would just like to focus on the recommendation from the committee with regards to doing 2 intakes. This is something that has come up before in the discretionary grants committee. It's risen again. In many cases, the organizations that are applying for this are quite small. They're not super well organized. They may not be year-round organizations. They may be youth organizations. And I mention this because they may not be prepared at the time of the year that we're looking for intake. They may not even be operating at that time. And so providing for a second opportunity during the year for an intake might provide some benefit for those particular organizations. The discretionary grants committee did discuss that in particular, and this has happened before, where all of the money has not been awarded, and now we have this leftover. So, which it's not that the money won't go to some good use at some point, but if we are committed to ensuring that this money gets into the best groups in town to take advantage of, I think the committee, agreed that the best way to do that would provide a second opportunity to do so. So I'm hoping that out of this particular meeting, we can put forward a resolution to make that specific change for the committee for the future.
Yeah, I certainly support that, given that we require a policy change. I take it, Mr. McConnell, and that would have to make a part of the resolution.
Yes, Your Worship. I haven't reviewed the policy myself with respect to that, but that would require that, yes.
Councilor Shoesmith, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I would, thank you, Mayor Milligan. I would just like to lend my voice to Kevin's on that, having sat on the other side pursuing these grants for little organizations. It is oftentimes a time crunch for us. So the second intake is a great idea.
Councilor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. For tonight, for the resolution for going forward with the actual discretionary grants, I think that should be separate, and I don't want to cloud that with the change for policy. I don't know if we need to request for communication with staff with regards to the change of that particular policy. If that's what's necessary, I'd rather do that as a second request beyond the distribution.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to suggest
Okay.
in my question that we conflate the two things. I think a second resolution to amend
All right,
the
thank
policy
you.
is appropriate. Councilor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship. So it just says on here, eliminated maintenance, eliminated construction, eliminated previous funding. No, there's a lot of groups that were eliminated here. Now, the form that they fill out, I don't recall seeing it, so I don't know if they understand that why they are eliminated. Was it on the sheet as well? Or like, I don't know what it looks like actually.
No, nor do I.
Yeah.
No.
So is it, I guess the question is, do people know what they're applying for, and do they know why they're eliminated? So.
That's a fair question, what the limitations are. Ms. Cook.
The application form, I don't believe has that full list of guidelines. Those guidelines aren't the policy. That's a guideline that we've followed in the past for who should be receiving the money. The policy itself is much more concise, like they must be a registered NPO or charity. They cannot have received funding within 3 of the past 5 years. When we do send regret letters, we will inform them on, perhaps why we did not award them the grants this year.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Ms. Cook. And in the case of the one I look at, SIB shops, support for siblings of the disabled implementing a 6-week program. For one, I won't read the whole description, but it would be nice if we could respond to them and say, for next time, if you're a registered not-for-profit or a registered charity, you'd be in a better position to.
That is absolutely the intent.
Thank you. And I was just curious, reflecting on Councilor Nixon's question about eliminated from previous funding for any Pride Society. How long ago was that? When did they receive funding?
It's on the chart in the slideshow here. Let me see if I can share it again. It was 3 times in the past 6 years, but they had received more funding than any other applicant or in terms of instances.
Okay.
So again, that was more, it was within the guidelines, not necessarily within the policies that they were eliminated.
Yeah, because the policy is, I think, twice in a 5-year period.
The policy,
No, I believe it's twice. I have the policy here. Organizations are eligible for award of discretionary grants in no more than 2 of 5 years. Okay, and they have received more. Thank you. Thank you. With that, did you want to take a moment to write?
If I could have a moment, I am just writing a potential resolution for the second resolution into the chat. And as soon as I'm done that, I will take the opportunity to read the first one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McConnell. Any other questions or discussion while we're waiting for our friend to type?
Thank you, Mayor Lane. Thank you, Mayor Milligan. This is pretty straightforward and looks great, so.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilor Audia Kelly.
Mayor Milligan, I think it may be helpful if we did give a little criteria list with the form, so that people, like, it's really obvious what we can and cannot fund.
mhm. Yeah, we can amend the form to be maybe include the policy in it. I don't remember off the top of my head all that's in our form, but I can have that as a takeaway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it available for preview?
It is, but I realized I kind of, I'm wordsmithing it right now because of the manner in which I put it in there. So
Okay.
maybe 2 seconds.
Thank you. Councilor McCausey.
Thank you. I actually don't think it's really necessary for us to have the resolution ready and said tonight. I'd be happy to send corporate away with the job of delivering in a future one. We have months before another discretionary grant meeting is going to occur, and we've got plenty of time to do a good job.
Yeah, fair enough. And my only caveat being, we don't want to lose the window for a second intake period to ensure that our intent here is to meet a second, if we have this money to spend.
I completely agree. I don't know what that appropriate time is. We did have some discussion at the discretionary grants committee about what that looked like, but we didn't settle on specific dates, looking more at breaking up the year into 2 6-month periods and so on. But that probably warrants a little bit of further discussion.
Yeah, agreed. And as such, we probably saved Mr. McConnell, could have saved Mr. McConnell some time, and we'll ask you to take that away for consideration at a future meeting. Is that?
More than happy to do that, Your Worship. And I see a better wordsmithing one was sent to me as well. So I appreciate that. With that, I will read the recommendations on the agenda. That council approved the discretionary grant allocations proposed by the Discretionary Grants Committee on November 28th, 2023, totaling $6,986.52, as included in this report dated December 19th, 2023.
Moved by Councilor Hamilton, seconded by Councilor McIsaac. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. The move is us on to item 6.1, our, I'm sorry, thank you, Ms. Cook, I apologize. Item 6.1, the request for a letter of support from Kaken Lands and Resources Development Corporation, who are incidentally the development corporation for Yakata Nucleate, in whose territory we operate. Any discussion?
I would move that we write them a letter of recommendation or a letter of support.
Councillor Nixon.
I'll second that, but it does say, please return a letter of support no later than 9 a.m. December 18th. So,
Mr. McConnell.
I can speak to that, Your Worship, and to council. We received the request last week on Thursday initially, and I confirmed to them that they would not be getting it before tomorrow because we weren't able to bring it to council before that. I can ask the letter requesting letter of support is also accompanied by an email which suggests wording for a letter of support. Is council satisfied with that wording, or would they prefer to have something a bit different? We would like to follow their sample if we could, rather than drafting up something ourselves. However, I do want to point out there is some language within that and it's simply in the very last, like the indications are we fully support their initiative and we provide our full support. Not sure what full support would look like in those kinds of things. So if council's prepared for us to do so, we would use their sample letter without the superlatives.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's fair.
Okay. So there's some discretion to do that, but a letter in provide a support letter similar to the one provided. If that is satisfactory.
Please, if you can then read the slightly amended resolution.
Okay. So the resolution would read that Council for the City of Fernie provide a support letter to Kaken Lands and Resources Development Corporation, similar to the wording which they provided as an example.
It was moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by, I think, Councillor Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. With that, we'll move on to item 7.1. Mr. McConnell, if you wouldn't mind reading the resolution to close.
Certainly, the recommendation is that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 90 sub 1 sub A. Personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality, or another position appointed by the municipality.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Audia Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And we'll take a 5-minute recess if that's okay. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.